Hello, good day to you, and welcome back to our Bible study. Today we are talking about Psalm 66, a psalm of worship. We have our video back today. My wife and I have kind of gotten settled into this new place. This is not going to be where we are forever, but for maybe the next month and a half or something, and then hopefully moving towards a little bit more long-term place and might improve my video quality. So we'll see what God has in store. One day I'll have a studio, but it is not this day. Psalm 66, we do have a free PDF, even though we don't have a studio, and you can download it on our website at tobelikechrist.com. Psalm 66, the first section that we need to talk about is our author. The author of Psalm 66 is actually unknown. It is not told to us in the psalm, and we don't have any New Testament references again today. We've got some coming up in Psalm 68. That'll be the next chapter. The air conditioner just randomly decided to turn itself back on so that it can blow the fan and ruin my audio. Speaking of studio, anyway, let's talk about our themes. Number one, there's an encouragement for people to worship God, and then we're also going to talk about God's work amongst the nation of Israel and his governance over not just Israel, but all nations. Our definitions today is a very familiar term. It is the term Selah. If you haven't been with us for our previous studies, the definition is right there. You can pause the video if you want to and read that, but I won't take the time to go over it today so we can stay under our 5-minute point. Taking a look at the first 4 verses of Psalm 66 will give us our first section, shout for joy to the Lord. The author of Psalm 66 begins by encouraging people to worship God. He encouraged them to verbalize their admiration of God's power and of his work. He wrote, quote, "All the earth worships you and sings praises to you," in verse 4. Section number 2 is verses 5 through 20. Come and see what God has done. God was governing the world. He had a watchful eye on all the nations, and he was using all of these nations to accomplish his will. The author of Psalm 66 invites his countrymen, who were the people of Israel, to remember all the things that God had done for them in the past. He specifically mentions one occasion where God did this incredible miracle, drying up the Red Sea so that the Israelites could escape the Egyptians. If you don't know that story, it's in Exodus chapter 14. God had never abandoned his people, although he had tested them through hardships at time. Verses 10 through 12 are interesting, and I want to read them. It says, "For you, O God, have tested us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net. You laid a crushing burden on our backs. You let men ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, yet you have brought us out to a place of abundance." We're going to come back to this idea of God testing people through hardship in our application section. The writer of Psalm 66 promised to go to the house of the Lord and to offer sacrifices to worship God for all of these great things that God had done. He says that he's going to tell everybody who will listen to him about God's work in his life. He ends the psalm with thanking God and praising God for answering his prayers and for extending love to him. Now to that application section. If you're with us for the books of Exodus, Numbers, and Judges, then you can read about some of the hardships that the nation of Israel had to face in their early years as a nation. Now, they didn't always take those hardships well. They didn't always see them the way that the psalmist saw them in Psalm 66. As God testing them and proving them like silver. Silver, to get pure silver, you have to melt it down and then take out all the impurities, and then you're left with the pure stuff. God does similar things testing his people to make them pure. The Israelites, though, didn't always see it that way. A lot of times they complained, and they complained against God and against God's leaders that God didn't take away their hardships immediately. People in the modern world aren't all that much different from the people in the ancient world, and many people in the modern world complain about the hardships that they have, and they often lash out at God for not taking them away. Some people even rejecting the existence of God because hardships exist. But this psalm and many other passages in the Bible reveal that God has purposes in allowing hardships to exist. One of those purposes is testing his people. The existence of hardship and the Christian God are not incompatible. Many people try to suggest that they are, but not at all. What appeared as meaningless hardships to the Israelites was actually a refining force given by God. What appears as meaningless hardship to us may very well be the same thing. So consider that the next time you're tempted to lash out at God or complain because things in your life are difficult. God is in the business of shaping and forming souls. Hardship is necessary, seemingly, in that process. Before you start complaining, think about passages like this and realize that God has his reasons for doing things the way that he does them.